Hi guys, it's Drew here. It is freaking freezing here in Melbourne right now, like freaking freezing. So if I put on my dressing gown, that's because it is freezing. Freezing. Okay guys, so today we're here to talk about a few things. And I'm going to keep this a brief video. A brief meaning trying to get it under 15 minutes today. Because it's like 10 past 11. And yeah, life. Okay, so today we're talking about shadow, and I'm going to start just talking a little bit about shadow. I made a video a couple of days ago in my vulnerable state, really purely just rawly saying how it is about shadows. But it has come to light with my experience last night that it's an important thing when you're doing this kind of work and dreaming, astral work, any kind of storytelling as well, that you are willing and able to confront shadows that come up, because they will come up. And I had an experience last night in a meditation where I met a being that I'd been working with and I have been working with, and I've mentioned this week. And he turned out to be in one form, in a powerful form, like one of his fragments that make him into a whole being. He turned out to be the headless horseman and Dalahan. And so that was kind of a little bit of a freak out for me, a little bit of a freak out moment, because I was like, and especially considering I had an experience that, like through the meditation, I was seeing things, hearing things, knowing things. It was a beautiful meditation, just beautiful, and I'm going to expand on that in a second with another thing. But Shadow, because he is a death god, and again, I had to go through the whole process of going, oh, another death god. Yeah, I work with a death goddess. That's cool. That's cool. And then inside, I'm like flailing, like just, oh my god, oh my god. Like part of me is like, no, I'm not ready. But it's part of shadow, and shadow is gonna come up when you're doing any kind of work, any kind of magical, spiritual, any kind of work really, and especially as writers, like. I know that I write in a whole type of genre. I write in horror, I write in supernatural, I write fantasy, I write sci-fi. And I'm dealing with a lot of crazy shit when I'm writing that. And I'm talking like in the story, and then like, the emotions of writing that stuff, especially when you're writing about killers. And you're like, did I just say that? Did I just say that? And there's those times when you're like, I actually enjoyed writing that scene. That person was really starting to piss me off. Uh, so those are, some forms of shadow, like, the positive and the negative, or the neutral side of things, like, you know, as shadow does. It has its positives and it has its negatives. It has its light and it has its dark. So today, if you do have any shadows coming up, or if you have had any shadows coming up, and I would be surprised if you didn't around this period of time, because there is a lot of energy going around with delving deep into the dark and the void and the shadows, and things are coming up. So, working with your guide, now your guide does have shadows. Like, your guide seriously has shadows as well. And this is what I'm realizing as well, that one of the great things about working on seeing different pieces of this guide, rather than just seeing it as one stagnant thing, is I've been seeing his shifting forms. He's light, he's positive, he's harmonious and masculine and powerful and primal, and I've been seeing his more darker, shiftier side. So if you have been seeing this come up and you're a little bit scared, I would say don't be scared, but then that would be really hard to say that. But I think one of the things that I like to do is I like to name it and claim it. And for me, that means that, when you're giving something a name, it gives it power. But also, when you're naming something, it can sort of take away the power of something as well. So, for example, last night I had to sit back and go, okay, so this is the energy I'm working with. This is part of my shadow. This is part of what I need to work on. Yes, I have issues with dark fae. Yes, I have issues with elves. Yes, I have issues with death and headless guides. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? What is it? It's fear. What is fear? Fear is the pit in my stomach. What is the pit in my stomach? Why is it there? Because childhood memories of good and evil elves and good and evil spirits and whatnot. Why is that there? Because my parents told me, or something like that. Try and, if you can, go to that length, but sometimes just naming it as, okay, so this is anxiety. What am I anxious about? Well, I'm anxious about working with this being because I really wanted to actually come um, to this sort of otherworldly dream experience with a really positive, happy-go-lucky, high vibe guy. And here I am getting somebody who's kind of like, you know, decapitating people in like myths and lore and stuff like that. That's if you're like channeling into things. But you could just be whatever your spirit guide is turning up. Like, that's what it is. Like, you just have to say, okay, this is one interpretation as well. And I think this is another thing too. It's like, if you don't feel something is right, work with it. Work with it and ask why you don't think it's right. Why don't you like the shadow aspect? Why don't you like your guide in this form? What is he telling you that doesn't fit? It might just be that you're picking up on something that needs to be cleared, to do some clearing. So work on your shadow today and sort of think about naming and claiming. So, like I said, if there is something, or someone in that space, in that dreaming space, in your mind, in your astral, or when you're working with characters, especially with characters, explore the shadow today, because it's just as important as getting to know your spirit guide, getting to know your dreaming guide, getting to know the sides of them that you know you need to know. You need to know the full spectrum of this being, because they need to know the full spectrum of you, and you're not just one thing either. The second thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is talismans, and I'm going to talk very quickly about this because it's not something that I have worked with. I do and I don't. So, but in this perspective, I'm not really one that wears jewelry as a talisman. But in my meditation last night, Danu and her former Morrigan, she actually placed a emerald jewel over my heart and sort of encrusted it in there and like sort of pushed it into my chest and said that that basically it was going to protect me. That was my seal. That was my way to connect with my family, like my fairy family, my fae family. And so I went out and I purchased this, and all for the expensive sum of $2, because there was a jewelry store in the shopping center, and I just saw a couple of things and I was like, you know what? I have a few coins in my purse. Why don't I? And I saw this and I was like, oh my god, this looks pretty damn close to what I was seeing in my vision like yesterday. And so if you have a talisman or a necklace or a piece of jewelry or a crystal or an image or something like that, or I don't know, maybe you might have like a rock or something that's meaningful to you that you want to bring into that space. Today, bring that into that space. And I think working with the talisman and your shadow as well, if you want to feel protected when you're doing meditations or dream work, maybe have this talisman near you. I know I'm going to be putting it next to my bed, hanging up just near my dream pouch. And I'm going to be wearing it during the day as well when I'm doing my actual like active writing down work and planning and connecting with the tarot and things like that. So having a talisman or having something close to you that replicates or resonates or is a really good symbol for what you're doing and what you're working with, the energies, I definitely recommend that. I also purchased one for, and this is not a wearable one because my neck is just not that small. As you can see, like, yeah. But I purchased it because I love the sound. There's something about this sound that just really soothes me. I'm a weird person like that, but I love it. And I'm not really sure about the cross, but we'll deal with that later. I'll see how I feel. But I loved the horn And I love the circles. And I love the leather, or the pleather, or whatever it is. And so I got this as a representation of the masculine, because I do work a lot with the feminine, and I'm working with masculine energies with my guide at the moment. He primarily is a masculine guide, and so who is based off the horn god and has elements of different creatures like satyrs and centaurs, and that kind of elf energy and fey energy. And so when I saw this, because I saw this before I saw that, I was like, yes, I need to have this. And again, this was very inexpensive, and I love it. I feel like I can meditate on that. And I love that this has like little dots as well, because I feel like I can meditate on that. I'm not quite sure what it says, but. And I like that there's two of them. And so that is another talisman that I'm going to be working with, and charging both these with energy and intent to work with certain energies. So I'll probably cleanse them and then put them near my altar. And lastly, I recommend setting up an astral or dreaming altar that you can work specifically with this particular guide. So I'm going to be doing that tonight, because it's I kind of want to do it in the threshold of today and tomorrow, which is coming up very soon. So I'm going to be setting up an altar for that. Now this is just going to be a really small altar that's just going to last me however long I feel like I need to, just to try it out, to see where the energies are with this being. But it's going to be near my bedside, and so today that might be a great exercise for you to do, just to set up a small altar that you can dedicate to this particular guide. And if you've been doing any of the exercises, I'm sure, or I hope by now rather, that you would have some knowledge of what your guide represents. So if you've got some incense, maybe it was an air elemental, a chalice, a bowl, some candles, maybe some writing, maybe some letters that you've written to your guide, music, anything that you really want. And that's why I say it could be really small too, because it can be just a little part of your altar that's already set up, or it could be a completely separate one. I'm doing a separate one because most of my altars have purposes. Up here is the Morrigan Le Fay, and my ancestral altar. Over there is my moon phase altar, and my herb and magic and tinctures and creative kind of stuff is happening over there. And so this one will be dedicated to the masculine specifically, because I don't have really any representation of him, and it's really important for me to be integrating that into my consciousness. So thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate all your views and support, and hopefully this video has been helpful. Some suggestions that you can look at with doing something creative and active with your spirit guide, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.